Hey, it's Kevin Lawton with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Pramod Ghadge, who is the co-founder and CEO at Unbox Robotics. And Unbox Robotics has a big focus on parcel sortation. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and how they're solving some of the challenges around parcel sortation, especially as we've seen an e-commerce explosion over the last few years, which has made parcel sortation an even bigger focus. And Unbox Robotics is trying to solve some of that. So Pramod is going to enlighten us today. Tell us a little bit about his story, how Unbox Robotics came to the market, and what they're focusing on, and how they're addressing some of these challenges. So, Pramod, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. It's nice to be on the podcast here. Look forward to talking about Unbox and what we are doing here. Uh, yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Happy to get you on. Happy to talk about this. Always interested to hear how people are doing different things within the industry. So why don't we start? I mean, tell us a little bit about because you're co-founder as well as CEO at Unbox Robotics. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you ultimately came to be a co-founder of this company, Unbox Robotics.
Yeah. So I grew up in a city called Mumbai in India. This is where
Mm,
I studied my high school and then I did my engineering. After that, I was mainly involved in manufacturing uh, and spent some time in outside India. I studied in Singapore, where I did
mm,
industrial and systems engineering. This is where I got more focus on how startups are built. Like started working with some of the startups there through my program, one of the programs from my university. Uh, and around 2015, 2016, when I was just about to graduate from my college, I was approached by Flipkart, which is part of Walmart
mm,
now. They were building automation team around 2015, early 2016, that period, and I was given a role to automate certain processes within their supply chain. So it was a very fascinating role where we were working on different technologies to automate Flipkart supply chain for different types of processes, like from fulfillment centers to sort centers to last mile hubs. So this is where I got more exposure to the warehouse automation world, and I was on the
mm,
other side of the table back then, where my job was to evaluate robotics companies, automation companies in India, outside India, and test them out and look at commercials as well as technologies, and then of course also get a sign off from internal stakeholders and deploy them at a larger scale in the long term. So while doing that, I got more focused on how do we automate sorting centers for Flipkart. I started evaluating
mm,
different technologies like conveyors, robot based sorters from different countries. One of the deployments I did there, that was my last project in Flipkart, where we deployed around 500 robots from China. uh, this was the trigger point for Unbox, like as a journey which became for us that the existing
mm,
technologies were very large in terms of the space they require, the infrastructure, the construction they require, the rigidity with which they get deployed. Like it becomes very difficult to scale up, especially when you're growing in an e-commerce omni-channel environment where you need to add more sort
mm,
destinations, you need to reach more regions or pin codes or zip codes to deliver the goods. So we started thinking, we as in I and my co-founder, Shahid, we met each other in a program called Entrepreneur First. It's a VC fund based in
okay.
UK. So we met each other in one of their programs that was launched in India. So Shahid had a background in swarm intelligence and multi-robot systems, and I was just coming from Flipkart after doing this project in Flipkart. So we were like, can we not build a much better system for the global market, which will be very agile, very flexible, compact sorting system that doesn't really ask for a lot of infrastructural changes for the retail or 3PL or e-commerce companies, and it is easy to scale. Uh,
Mm,
so our idea was to build a multi-robot system which can sort packages vertically in very small spaces and it's easy to deploy and scale. And of course, it has to improve the productivity uh, significantly and reduce the cost per package for sortation. So
mm,
this was back in 2019. So this was just a concept on paper. Two founders starting out. We got a pre-seed funding done in 2019. We went to China. We spent some time in China to build our initial prototype. Towards the end of 2019, just before COVID, we came back to India. We started building the team. We raised few more rounds of funding, and then after several iterations, the product got ready. It's a multi-robot system, as I mentioned, and then 2022 we launched it
mm,
with some of the leading 3PL e-commerce companies like Flipkart, Delivery in India, also one of the fashion retailers from Spain. And we converted all
mm.
our pilots and trials into actual contracts. So none of our trials or pilots went without any output. I would say, like every trial
Nice.
got converted. So last
Sweet.
year onwards, 2023 onwards, we started deploying in the early customers, as well as we started onboarding new customers. So now, as we speak, we have gone live in 9 different customers facilities uh, in India, Spain, Netherlands, and US. And we are also now looking at repeating the deployments with these accounts where customers are looking at deploying more robots from us in the same site or looking at more sites. So we are in the journey of how do we go
Mm,
from one site to maybe 5 more sites in the same account, because we have got a good system, mature system now, which can be replicated across the warehouses. So this is where we are today.
mm.
Happy to talk, of course, more in the podcast, but this is how
Yeah.
we have gone from 2019 to 2024.
Yeah, interesting journey, and I mean, I love too for you that those trials all converted into actually customers, and for the long term, and I think that kind of is a proving point of what you're trying to work on here. But I'm curious. Let's dig in a little bit here to because you talked about going to Flipkart and then seeing over time how do you scale this sortation, right? And you look at some of these sortation centers, and there's just like miles of conveyor maybe, right? Lots of
Yeah,
infrastructure involved there. Like, I went to UPS
yeah,
Worldport and saw that. And I mean, that's like insane. I mean, that's on a huge scale. But even these sortation, I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of movement of parcels, and trying to separate whether it's from automation perspective, on a conveyor perspective, or manual sortation or something like that. There's a lot involved there. So I guess tell us as you got involved with Flipkart and then obviously starting this right before the pandemic where e-commerce really just exploded.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about, how that sortation segment of the supply chain for, e-commerce especially. I mean, how has that evolved over recent years? And, how has that kind of just the influx of huge amounts of volume, I mean, how has that kind of escalated these challenges even more?
Yeah. So if you look at sortation as a process and compare that with different types of processes in warehousing sites like picking or docking, loading, unloading, packing, or general material movement from point A to point B, sortation has been spread across the supply chains, right? From fulfillment centers to sort centers to last mile hubs or even return centers. For example, if you order something online, it has to get picked up from the inventory. Nowadays, the picking process is also being automated by goods to person robots. Once that is done, you need to sort it out as per order IDs. Imagine you ordered maybe a jeans and shirt. Your the two items under your order has to get sorted out as per your order ID, which is like batch sortation right after the picking. So this is first type of
Mm,
sorting we do. Then it gets packed. It gets a label on top which has your address or let's say the delivery hub information, something like that. Then you need to sort it out again after packing as per regions or as per carriers or as per, let's say, last mile hubs you're dealing with.
mm,
So this is second step, second type of sorting in the same facility. Then it goes to the next hub, which is more likely like a sort center or like a mid-mile hub, where the main job is about getting the materials, like getting the goods in the facility and then just shipping it out, just sort it out as per different zip codes or different regions. Then it comes to the last mile where people are sorting parcels as per vans, different vans going to different routes. And then you don't like the shirt, for example, for some reason, you give it back. Then
Mm.
again, it has to get sorted back to origin. So if you look
Yeah.
at the pattern here, sorting is happening everywhere. But historically, the
Mm.
sorting automation is deployed only in large distribution centers where you will see miles of
Right.
conveyors being deployed. And most of the small, medium scale sorting facilities are typically manual ones or basic conveyors or put to light systems, because
Mm.
the large systems doesn't really make sense because of ROI or payback periods or commercials, or even just basis the pure technical facts like area is very large, requirements of infrastructure, so makes it very difficult to kind of deploy such systems in small medium hubs. uh, what we wanted
Mm.
to do was we wanted to create a system which is applicable for not just the large distribution centers, but it also should be easy to deploy in last mile hubs, return centers, or fulfillment centers, or mid mile hubs. So it should not be like a site specific system. It should be agnostic of what kind of facility we operate in. And it has to be a system which is enabling our customers to do sorting with one scan. When I say one scan, if you
Mm.
see the industry, a lot of times companies do sortation in 2 to 3 steps. Imagine I want to sort items or parcels into 100 different buckets or 100 bags. I might do a primary sorting using maybe a basic scan like a conveyor or just a manual scan, and put it in a trolley or something like a roll cage, and then I'll give that roll cage or trolley to the next person who's doing the second level of sorting to complete
Mm.
the end-to-end sorting into 100 bags. So it's a multi-step process. What we are saying is you don't have to do that. You can do sortation into hundreds and thousands of bins or bags with one scan. You put it on the robot, which Unbox gives, and robots are capable of sorting things into hundreds and thousands of bins in a very small confined space, which makes it
Mm.
attractive for companies, which because it's reducing the area, it's reducing the touch points, and it's also making the process much faster. And because it's very compact and agile, it can be deployed in last mile hubs, return centers, or any kind of
Mm.
facility you typically operate in, especially in e-commerce, omni-channel world we are living in. So that's why we are,
Mm.
for example, some of the deployments we have done, like one of the deployments we have done is for one of the e-commerce companies in India, which is Mintra, uh, where we have deployed robots to automate their batch sorting process, where we are sorting things
Okay.
into large number of destinations in very small space. We have also deployed something for one of the large 3PLs for the return center, where our system was sorting parcels which are coming back from customers and they're going back to origin.
Mm.
Similarly, we have deployed system in Spain for one of the fashion retailers where we are sorting parcels as per store locations. These are like deliveries happening through the stores. So the items are going from the
Okay.
distribution centers and they're going to the stores, and the consumers can pick it up from the stores. So the use cases are
Mm.
pretty much like it can be store wise sortation, it can be carrier wise sortation, it can be return sortation, but our system remains the same. Of course, the robot's model can be different. It can be small robot or larger robot depending on the package size, but the core platform, the software platform remains the same. So what we have ended up building is a full stack system which has this software which takes care of all the sorting related use cases, and the robots which are high speed and 3D, like they're able to go up and down and at the same time have a very good speed and acceleration. And we are also manufacturing these in house. So we have built the system pretty much full stack, and a lot of
Mm.
in house engineering, hardware, firmware, software engineering has been taking place and has taken place in the last 3 4 years. Yeah.
Mm. It's very interesting. Yeah, and I think one of the keys for me that stands out there is, and I think you mentioned this a couple times, is like the ability to set it up and put it in a smaller footprint, right? And have that throughput still. And I think that addresses a lot of challenges, right, from a labor perspective, right? You mentioned there where some of these smaller companies, their sortation is more of a manual process, and being able to have that smaller footprint, I think there's a couple different advantages there, right? You have the advantage one of addressing some of those labor challenges, giving some type of automation to maybe a smaller business that doesn't have a huge sortation hub, but also I think more flexibility in getting that sortation maybe in a more densely populated area, in a smaller building, getting closer to the customer in a sense. So there's a lot of different things I think you can create there, right? From that flexibility to be able to be in that smaller footprint, and also scale to a larger footprint as well. I mean, you mentioned you're doing
Yeah.
for Flipkart and some other big retailers as well. So tell us a little bit about from that perspective, right? If I wanted to, stand up a sortation operation and I decided, okay, I'm going to use Unbox Robotics to do this, right? What does that implementation look like? How does, this go into place, and how does this all kind of function together?
Yeah, so we generally start with evaluating the processes of the customers, looking at the data from last, let's say, 3 months, looking at the volumes, and also looking at the projections they have, and also looking at peak seasons, like how, let's say, how different the peak season volume is. And then
Mm,
we create a solution using our in-house simulation software, where we define how many robots are required, how many racks are required, like which we use with our system to, let's say, sort the parcels into, along with the scanning systems and everything. So everything comes together as a Lego block. Robot, the
mm,
scanners, the racks, everything comes together to form one solution. There is a bit of a back and forth in terms of feedback, getting the feedback from customers and finalizing the solution. Once we kind of finalize the solution, it typically, let's say if we get the purchase order, we generally take around 8 to 10 weeks of, like, we commit as a lead time to dispatch the system from our premises. And by then, we also try to get the integration, the software integration done. So the first step is we involve our software team to integrate our system with the customer's WMS. Uh, it's agnostic of any kind of WMS used, so it can be integrated with a variety of WMSs out there. By the time we arrive at the site, we also complete the observation of the site. We send our people to observe the site, the conditions. Normally, if it is
mm,
a standard warehouse, FM2, FM3 floor standards, we are good to go. We don't really need to do anything on the flooring. We can deploy our system directly. It involves generally putting the barcode stickers on the floor, putting the racks in the right manner as per the solution we define. So it takes about, on an average, can be 1 to 2 weeks of an activity of two people from Unbox on site, spending 2 weeks on ground, deploying the system, and then start testing the system with the initial run, like with dummy parcels or something like that. Uh, Basic requirements, like which is a flat flooring, which is like FM2, FM3 flooring, electricity, the Wi-Fi, or the, let's say, the internet connections, the network, I would say, and then integration, of course. And then we can start putting in the parcels, which are the actual parcels, after
mm,
we are done with the basic installation. And then we start the hypercare period, which can be 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the scale of the project and the complexity, where we have our people on site for initial few weeks till the time the customer is
mm,
now fully on its own, can operate the systems, and then we come out. So it can be about 8 to 10 weeks to dispatch, then the transit period, which is transportation, then on-site period of
mm,
about 4 weeks, and then we give a 24/7 support along with on-premise support through our partners or our engineers, depending on where we are in the world.
mm,
And we also train the maintenance teams. If at all customer has one, we can train their people to do primary maintenance activities like cleaning or the basic maintenance SOPs. And that's how we are able to give the overall support. And we also provide the spare parts, considering the AMC contracts. Yeah. So it's a, I would
yeah.
say, installation is pretty much not so heavy in terms of infrastructure. It's
Mm,
pretty much like 2 to 4 weeks kind of an activity. Yeah.
mm. Interesting. So I mean, not that long, and obviously, I think the win there is the not huge infrastructure change,
Yep.
right? Which allows you to have that flexibility. So, I mean, how easy is it to you mentioned peak season in there, right? So I mean, how easy is it to like scale up or scale down
Yeah.
when needed?
It's so we are working with several customers who are in the retail or third party logistics
Mhm.
business. They give us the volume that, okay, my volume, or let's say they give a scale that my Black Friday season will have more requirement. I need more robots, or more,
Mm.
let's say I need more robots to handle Diwali sale in India, for example, something like that. So they
Sure.
give us the volumes, or if not volumes, at least they kind of give us the sense of how much scale they would need in those periods. So we define how many more robots we need to add. Adding a robot, it's a matter of just like a clicking a button. So if it is on
Mm.
site, it just switch on the bot and then you can configure it in few minutes, and you can add more robots. So it's very very easy to scale up the throughput of the system by adding more robots. The second element of the system is, imagine you are a retailer who is sorting parcels for 100 stores. And let's say in
Mm.
Black Friday, you want to ship to 200 stores. You can simply add more racks in the system. I like it can be a physical addition of the racks, or maybe number of levels on the each rack can be added, and then you can scale
Mm.
up the destinations as well. So it's very easy. One of our customers have done that in recently, where they had, I think, 4 level racks, like a 4 tiers,
Okay.
and they simply added one more layer on the go after deployment, and they just
Mm.
added like almost, I would say, if I'm not wrong, they added around 30 plus destinations in the same system
Mm.
without really changing anything
Oh, just
drastic.
by adding a
Just
level.
add one
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
chute on the system.
Interesting.
It's kind of
Mm.
a very quick activity. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite modular. It's like literally you're playing with the system the way you
Mm.
want to scale. Either by adding robots, you can add more feeding stations, which is the scanning stations. So it can be added incrementally. It's not that like conveyor, where you deploy a conveyor system for, let's say,
Mm.
sorting 3,000 parcels per hour, and then you add another conveyor for 3,000. You can actually go from 3,000 parcels per hour to maybe 3,300, because you're
Mm.
adding very small quantities of robots. So you can invest at the right time, rather than looking at next 3 years. You can look at next 6 months or next 3 months. So this way it's commercially beneficial for the customers, and it's very quick and feasible as well.
Yeah, interesting, and I think that ability to scale up when needed is such a key thing, and like you said, just adding, one level
Yeah,
give you a big impact on
yeah.
that scale as well, and I think, and because the robot itself too is, it's like it's an AMR platform basically, right? And but it's kind of like you would say like an accordion almost, right? In a sense, like it kind of goes up, right,
It
and
can
and
go
then
up.
drops the package, right?
Yeah, we have built this robot so that it can go up around 8 feet, 7 to 8 feet,
Mm.
and it can
Yeah.
stop at different intervals. You can configure the stopping points the way you want. That's why
Yeah.
sometimes it can be a 3 level rack, or it can be 7 level rack. If it is cosmetics,
Mm.
it can be like much higher number of levels. It can stop at multiple points
Business
because it's a
times.
small
Yeah.
packages. So it's a very
Mm.
configurable kind of system. And if you feel that in 3 months, let's say after go live in 3 months, your data says that you're getting a lot of thin or small parcels or small items, and you want to add more levels, you can do that. So
Mm.
you don't really stick with the same system just because somebody gave you that system for years. You can always change it. If you want more, your feeding rate is slow. Your people are not really
Mm.
scanning fast. You want to add more level, like feeding stations. You can do that. If you think that your throughput is not up to the mark, your volume is growing, you can add more
Mm.
robots. It's a very flexible system, and for some reason, if you want to shut down the site and relocate, it's easy to pack the robots, disassemble the racks in a matter of few days, and then ship it somewhere else, instead of
Mm.
spending time in dismantling the heavy, infra heavy systems. So it's
Yeah.
easy in terms of different types of volumes, or let's say the changes in the supply chain networks.
Mm. Interesting, interesting. Yeah, and I think that's such a key now as we see just the evolution of operations and the evolution of e-commerce and consumer behavior and all these things which drive back to that kind of that backbone of the supply chain, which is operations. And having that flexibility ability to move easily or scale up easily or even scale back easily, is going to make your operation that more effective and efficient and help your company evolve overall as you need to, right? So I think that's really great that you've taken that approach and enabled your solution to be able to do that. So now let's talk a little bit about, because obviously I think we're still very early, right, in our space in terms of robotics really, making penetration. There's many operations and warehousing companies that don't have any robotics yet, right? So there's a big open
Yep.
market there, which is good. Lots of opportunity for you
Yep.
guys, right? Which is good. But there's also many different robotic solutions out there. So how do you kind of work with other robotic solutions? Are there any collaborations there that can happen? What are you seeing there?
Yeah, so we have built a system which can work with different set of automation systems, and we are pretty much
Mm,
open to work with other players. We have been already engaging with certain players who are doing some automation before what we do, like before sorting or after sorting, where let's say somebody else can do goods to person and we integrate with them, or somebody's doing
mm,
AMRs for trolley movements, we integrate with them. We can do the integration between our systems where we sort and then they take the filled trolleys or filled gaylords or pallets with their systems. Or it can be robotic arms we can integrate where they can pick and place on our robot. So uh,
mm,
that that collaboration is very much needed, because we may not enter in every leg of the processes and reinvent the wheel. We will enter only when we see some very high differentiation being created by our product, not because we
mm,
just because we can do it. Like if it is making some kind of cost disruption or performance disruption, we will definitely evaluate that. But in
mm,
other cases, we are looking at just collaborating with other players and co-selling and or integrating our solutions with their solutions, so that the end-to-end, uh, let's say, business case gets improved for the end customer.
mm.
So we are already working on it. We are already engaging with some of the players in India, outside India, who can enhance the overall value proposition by combining different solutions.
Mm, gotcha. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's such a key too. I mean, I think if I look at like the automation robotics landscape overall in warehousing, I think, two of the big important things that stand out to me. I mean, one is certainly that it works, right? I think that's a big thing. But the the two things I think that stand out are like having that flexibility, like you guys have there, and we were talking about in terms of scaling up, scaling down, being able to move it if you need to move it, and then the ability to also integrate and work with other solutions as well, because I don't think we don't
Yep.
see, and there's some companies maybe that are trying to do every part of the operation, but I think you're not going to see a company that's going to be like the best at every part of the operation.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're open to that and able to collaborate, I think is such a good thing there. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of the future for Unbox Robotics? I mean, you guys are fairly new, just started in 2019, and you're already having some good penetration there with customers and things like that. But what does the future look like for Unbox?
Our next 1 year focus is how do we scale within the existing customer base and onboard new customers.
Mm,
So we are rapidly deploying in existing accounts. Like fortunately we have got a very good feedback from our existing customers, and they are repeating the orders in India, outside India as well. So we will be looking
mhm,
at penetrating within their supply chains and going live in many more facilities within the existing customer base. And a lot of these are global 3PL or fashion retail or e-commerce companies, like large companies with a large base of warehousing sites. So opportunity to
Mm,
kind of scale up within the existing accounts as well. And with the good reference sites, we are also looking at new customers coming to us, where people are speaking good about the systems we are deployed. It's a small world, so we're getting good feedback overall. We're looking at entering. I wouldn't say entering. We are looking at scaling up. I would say, like in the US, we have a couple of small sites live in US.
okay.
We are looking at deploying more such systems with some of the retail and 3PL companies in the next 12 months. As we speak, we are looking at finalizing some of the deals. So we should be live in few
Mm,
more sites in the next 12 months in the US. We're already live in two countries in Europe, Netherlands and Spain. We are going live in UK with one of the 3PLs in the coming months. We should be live there. Uh, so
mm,
we'll be looking at expanding in these two regions and along with India, which is our home market, where we are already looking at a lot of traction. And then we're also looking at a lot of partnerships with system integrators or technology companies, robotics companies, where we can together enhance the value for the end customer. So our focus will be
mm.
to try more partnerships, become a much larger player than what we are today in the next 12 months in these two regions, where we have initial footprint with two, three sites in Europe, a couple of sites in US. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. All right, exciting stuff, definitely, and definitely a lot of market opportunity out there. I think for you guys to go after and try to improve upon these sortation issues and really help companies be able to scale that and be more flexible in a sense and help address some of those challenges that we have in the operations world. So Promote, I want to thank you very much for joining me on the show today. It's been really interesting to learn about Unbox Robotics here and kind of some of the challenges out there as well that you guys are addressing. So, if people are interested, right, maybe they want to be one of those next customers potentially. What's the best way to learn more about Unbox Robotics and get in touch?
Uh, I would suggest please visit our website unboxrobotics.com or just email me, which is pramod at unboxrobotics.com. Uh, I think that's the best way to reach out, and or maybe just find me on LinkedIn. It's Pramod Ghadge on LinkedIn. Just DM me there. Yeah.
All right, great. And we'll definitely put links to all of that stuff so people can easily find it at thenewwarehouse.com. So, Promote, thank you once again for joining me on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesaresexy.com and get your own.